Welcome to the Transform My Dance Studio podcast, the only podcast for dance studio owners, where each week we bring you business growth strategies to help you increase your profits, impact the lives of more students, while ensuring you get back some time to have a little life outside of the studio. It's time for you to become the go-to studio in your area. Now, here's your host, founder of the Dance Studio Owners Association, Clint Salter.
Hey there, dance studio owners. Welcome to the Transform My Dance Studio podcast. It's Clint Salter here from DSOA, and I'm so thrilled that you're joining us for another episode. Now, you're in for a treat. Today's guest is Thor Conklin. He's an entrepreneur, profitability consultant. We love that word, profitability, and hosts his own daily podcast, Peak Performers Podcast. Thor has a talent for slicing through the noise of everyday distractions, and he really helps business owners break through to the next level of achievement. He serves as a professional mentor and facilitator of entrepreneur groups within Atlanta's EO, which is the Entrepreneurs Organization, and he has been a senior leader with the amazing Tony Robbins Organization for the past 13 years. We got a whole lot of stuff to get through, Thor. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, man. Thanks for having me.
We're going to have a good time. So one of the things you talk about, Thor, is your ultimate success map. And I really love this. And I wanted to start here because I think it's going to bring up a whole bunch of cool stuff for us to chat about. Can you tell our studio owners, what is this map about and how do we achieve ultimate success?
Absolutely. Well, it actually came from absolute failure. My fifth business crashed and burned. I was working it for about 8 years. I just couldn't figure out how to make it work. And I was shocked because it was my fifth. The first four, I had successful exits. And I said, I'm missing something. You know, I thought I kind of knew it all, right? We get to that point where we're successful, and all of a sudden, right? We think we're bulletproof. Well, guess what? I found out that I wasn't. And I knew I was missing something. I didn't know what it was. I was on a journey probably for about 15 years to figure out what that was. And I was through the Atlanta Hartsfield Airport here in Atlanta. And there on the subway that leads you to the different terminals was the map that I was looking for. So I want to share that real quickly with you. If you're ever in Atlanta, you'll see it right there. Matter of fact, when I'm on the train, I actually kind of give like mini seminars. It's like, hey, people, look up there on the wall. This is the map you're looking for. So it starts off in Atlanta. You've got terminals. T is the T gates, A, B, C, D, E, and F. And with some maps, you have to turn them around to actually follow them in the correct direction. So if we start with F, no matter what you're trying to achieve, you've got to understand your outcome. You've got to figure out what you want. You've got to figure out what that destination is. And so often entrepreneurs will start running down a path without understanding what their final destination is. You've got to figure that out first, not just in your business, but your overall life, and to make sure that your business ends up supporting your life, not your life supporting your business. Next is E. You've got to come up with an efficient and an effective plan, right? I mean, if we're going to do this, we've got to have a good plan. Next is we've got to make a decision. And usually this decision is an internal decision. We decide that we're going to move forward with this plan. And very often people miss that next step, which is C, which is commit. And the commitment phase is not an internal response, but an external response. You've got to tell the world what you're going to do. It's burn the boats, right? I'm going to do this. I'm going to open a new studio. It's going to look like this. This is where it's going to be. This is the date. Tell the world. I just got done running a half Ironman. It was a 70.3 mile race. I'm getting ready to do a 140-mile race at the end of the year. And I'm not a runner. I'm not a swimmer. I'm not a cyclist. But I just wanted to do something tough. Well, it started last November, and I told the world on Facebook I'm doing this race. Well, guess what? I'm an execution guy. I get stuff done. I teach people how to take their dreams and execute on them. So I couldn't be the one that fell down, didn't get it done. I had leverage. So tell the world what you're going to commit to doing. And here's one of the things on the next stop is the B stop. And this is what I was really missing, and I didn't see it. And it's very difficult sometimes for entrepreneurs to see. And that's beliefs. I needed to check into my belief systems and what was potentially going to come up in the future that was going to derail me. And I missed some of the signs because I didn't have advisors around me telling me, what was written on my face. Of course, I couldn't see it because I'm looking out, but the entire world could see it looking in. The next piece, A, is action. We've got to take massive action. We need accountability in this phase. Once we start doing our activities, we've got to make sure that we continue them and that we're constantly being held accountable. Next on the train is the T gate, which is time. Once we decide to start taking action, when do we want results? Immediately. When do results normally happen? Not immediately. And then what do we end up doing? We get off the train, we get off our business, and we go, oh, that wasn't the right studio to start. This is the right studio. That wasn't the right location. This is the right location. And we do this constant movement where we're jumping from one thing to another. It's a shiny penny syndrome. You've got to stay the course, work the plan, and put in the time. You plant the seeds, you've got to wait a little bit to harvest the crops. Same thing in business. And then once you stay on that track and you're constantly tracking and measuring and adjusting, TMA, because the plan, right? Does the plan ever hold up and we never change the plan? Of course not, right? We go in with a great plan, but then we've got to adjust. If you follow those simple steps in any area of your life, whether it's business, it's health, relationships, doesn't matter. That is the ultimate success map.
Yeah, I love it. This is so good, and I was writing it down as you were saying it, as I hope all of our studio owners were as well. I want to go on the FSOP, which is figure out what you want. And when we ask our studio owners this question, they open their dance studio, they dream of, they're a dance teacher, they dream of opening their own studio, and they don't really know what they want. They just want to open a dance studio and teach dance and, make a huge impact. But then, you've got to run a business. You've got to step into the role of the CEO. What are some things we can do if maybe we've been running the studio for a couple of years and we're a little lost and we've lost touch with actually what we really want? How do we kind of ignite that fire and really get back in touch with what it truly is, that why we're doing this?
Yeah, that's a great question. With all of my executive coaching clients and consulting, profitability consulting clients, we start with one premise, and I want to know what your vision is for your life, not your business, not anything except for your life. What do you want it to look like? What do you want your days to look like? What do you want to be in 10 years, 5 years? Then let's start plugging in the foundation. Let's get the business as one of the pillars. Let's get your relationships. Let's get your health. Get all those things that are going to support your overall your overall life, not just your business. Once you figure out what your life wants to look like, what you want it to look like, then you can figure out and design your business to support your life. Because what ends up happening very often is, first of all, many of us think we're business owners and we're nothing more than practitioners. I shouldn't say nothing more. That's not really fair. But we think we're business owners, but really the business owns our life, that owns us. Mm-hmm. And many people have a great job, but they don't have a business because if they're not there, it doesn't run. So first and foremost, if your vision is, look, I want to teach the rest of my life. I love teaching. If you want to do that, that's great. If you want to be the business owner and not have to be there every single day, that's a different vision. You've got to set up things differently. So in order to get out of it, this is what I see with most of my clients, is they don't have a number two person they can lean on. It's all about them, or they've got a whole bunch of other people working with them, but they don't have somebody that they can lean on, somebody that can take the ball, run with it, and execute. That's one of the biggest pieces that I see over and over again.
Yeah, this is huge. I love what you just said then around, if you want to teach and teaching's your passion, teach. If you want to run the business, and be the CEO and not have to be there all the time, that's a different plan. That's a different action plan. Yeah. And I think here the important piece is that your version of success is the only version of success that you need to focus on. I feel like too often, and we have these conversations a lot in the association, everyone's looking around at what every other studio owner is doing, and they think that needs to, their stick needs to be the same size as the other person's. Can you talk a little bit about, really defining your version of success and kind of putting the blinders on and not worry about what everyone else is doing. Because, we work in an industry where people are worrying about the studio up and down the road constantly.
Yeah, if you want your stick to look like everybody else's stick, you're going to get the same results as everybody else. And when you peel back the onion, the results that most people are getting in business are not something that you want. Mm-hmm. The clients that we have that are extraordinary are the ones that don't look like the rest. They've decided to do them. They are just out there. They're making their mark. They don't look like the others. They don't sound like the others. They're not. And one thing for sure, they are not trying to appeal to everybody. They have their lane and they own their lane. If you have a dance studio, pick a lane and own it. When people think about that particular area, it's only you. It's not something that does something for everybody. Because if you try to serve the masses, you'll get served up.
I love that. If you're trying to serve the masses, you'll get served up. That's great. In this map that you just ran through, in the commitment phase and also in the action phase, you mentioned accountability quite a bit. I've heard you say before, not all accountability actually works. How do we build in an accountability system or a community or a mentor or a coaching in some respect that really helps us move forward?
Yeah. The first I alluded to a little bit earlier. You've got great social media platforms that tell the world what you're going to do. Get on there and tell them what you're going to do. Get that leverage on yourself. Make a commitment and follow through on it. Second, pay somebody. Find somebody and pay them to hold you accountable. Accountability partners don't work. I've done it for years. I've had an accountability partner for probably about 13 years. He's not an accountability partner anymore. He's a buddy of mine. Yeah. Whenever we get together, right? He's like, how things going? I tell him what's going. If I don't do what I said I was going to do, he's not sitting there holding me accountable. Why? Because you become friends. If you want to be held accountable, find someone to hold you accountable. Simply Google paid accountability programs. Have someone that doesn't mind being the tough guy. I've got some clients that literally say the most important piece of everything that we do is you don't let me slip a minute or an inch. And I don't. I was with a client the other day. We were talking about 2019 goals, and I laughed at him. I said, that's the most ridiculous small play I've ever heard come out of your mouth. That's not who you are. Step up and get it done. He goes, I don't know how to get it done. I said, that's okay. Not knowing how to get it done is one thing, but don't play small. Make a commitment, follow through.
Why do people play small?
Because it's safe. Because if you play small, it's easy to win, kind of. I don't think you actually end up winning. Look, last November, when I decided to run a 140-mile race, 17-hour nonstop race, I couldn't swim 2 laps of a pool without being out of breath. I had no idea how I would get it done. I still don't know how. It's the big race is 7 months away. I don't understand how I'm going to do it. But I'm told that if I keep doing the small things each and every day, it's going to start to stack and I'll get it done. I just ended up a race that was 7 hours, 58 minutes. If you asked me to go walk 7 hours, I'm like, that's crazy. But I ran, swam, and biked it for 7 hours. So it's about just making the commitment and then you figure out a way to do it.
I think that's a really important point because so often and I've seen it with our studio owners and myself over the years, running our businesses, is that we tend to go, but I don't know how, so I won't make that a goal, or I won't go for that because I can't piece all of the pieces of the puzzle together right at this moment. So what you're saying is, you'll figure it out. That doesn't matter at this moment, but reach far, reach high, and like put the stick in the sand.
Yeah, if you've ever been in a boat or a sailboat or motorboat, as it sits in the harbor, if you try to steer that boat when it's not underway, it doesn't do anything. Yeah, you can move the rudder, you can move the wheel, it doesn't do anything until you start making forward progress and there's motion. That's when you can control it. Or a jet ski. If you've ever done a jet ski, you can't do anything. If it's not moving, all you do is move the handlebars. Nothing happens. You've got to be under propulsion. You have to be moving forward. Same thing in business and in life. Start running and you'll figure it out.
Yeah, perfect. On this same topic of like taking action, what is an effective way to set goals? There are so many goal setting books and videos and courses out there. What do you believe in? And working with the Tony Robbins Organization and obviously your stable of clients, what's a really effective way to set up our goals?
Yeah, set them big. I have a thing that I talk about. I said smart goals are stupid. I truly believe there are, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time bound. Specific and measurable, great. Time bound, great. Realistic? Why do I want to set goals that are realistic? I want to set goals that are absolutely non-realistic. I say create simple goals. Specific, important to you, important to your outcome, important to your vision. They're measurable. They're purpose directed. They're lofty or limitless, and they're exciting. I go after simple goals. I want to go after such a big goal that if I miss, I actually end up with something cool in the process. Oh, and let me add. I'll throw a little bonus thing in here. Going back to this race, so it was a 1.2 mile swim in the ocean. I'm not a good swimmer, but you either swim or you drown. So there's a lot of motivation. You get it done. I wasn't trying to figure out how to swim a mile and a half or a mile and a quarter. All I was doing was getting to the next buoy. I swam, got to the next buoy, took a couple breaths. I said, okay, I've got to swim to the next buoy and the next buoy. So it wasn't about completing a long race. It's simply about making a little micro commitment, a micro goal that I'm going to end up going 10 more feet. On the run, it was like, I'm going to run to the mailbox. I get to the mailbox. I'm like, I can run another 5 feet. I'm going to get to the stop sign. I get to the stop sign. At that point, I may have taken a couple steps and just walked, or I may have said, you know what? I can make it to the next cone. Break things down. They're little steps, little milestones. That's what keeps you on track, and that's what ends up stacking on itself.
Yeah, so important. It's like, two of my favorite books, The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson and Compound Effect by Darren Hardy, and both of them talk about this kind of compounding effect, bit by bit. And like you talk about micro commitments and creating these milestones, because if we look at a big goal, and a big goal for our studio owners that might be listening, might be 100 new students in the next 6 months. And so they look at that and they go, whoa, how am I ever going to achieve that? But like you're saying, really chunk it down and break it down. And it's really the small action that you're taking consistently that is going to get you there faster.
Absolutely. And continue to track and measure that, see what's working. And the other thing is, life tends to go in cycles. If you're ever familiar with Vegas, playing cards in Vegas, things tend to run in cycles and in streaks. When you're on a hot streak and you close a couple clients, keep going. Don't stop. It'll cool off at some point, right? Where you're doing the same things that you were doing yesterday that were successful that are not successful today. Whenever you're in a great streak and things are, just keep going, don't stop. I don't care if you stay there till midnight. Keep the phone ringing, keep dialing, keep doing whatever you're doing, because at some point it's going to go cold again. And then you're just going to have to trudge through it, and then it'll heat back up. When it heats up, that's not the time to celebrate. That's the time to double down and press harder.
I mean, momentum is so is so important. How do we keep the momentum going if we don't feel like it?
I don't feel like it all the time.
Yeah.
It comes down to, I make a commitment every single day when I wake up. Every single day is a new day. Why don't marriages last for 50 years? Why don't, people stay on diets for 50 years? Because the commitment's too big. Break the commitment down into little chunks. Every day I wake up, I decide what I'm going to do today and what I'm not going to do today. Tomorrow, I could do anything I want. For example, I eat pretty clean. But tomorrow, I can have hot dogs, hamburgers, French fries, Coca-Cola, pizza, whatever. A chocolate cake, an entire chocolate cake tomorrow. But today, I'm going to eat this way. Today, I'm going to make this many sales calls. Today, I'm going to do this. Tomorrow, I can goof off. But today, I'm going to do this. And I wake up tomorrow, and I reset again. And I say, today, I'm going to do this. It's similar to the AA program, one day at a time. Stop trying to figure out how to do something perfect for the next 5, 10, 15 years or days. Do it perfect or do it well for the next 5 minutes and then another 5 minutes.
Yeah. One day at a time. I love it. This is great. You've interviewed on your podcast, Peak Performers, amazing business titans, Super Bowl champions, relationship experts. What are some of the core lessons or themes that have come up time and time again that would be valuable for our studio owners to know about?
Yeah, other than really following their system or their interpretation of the ultimate success map, they didn't call it that, but they all had a very similar process that they went through. They are very, very focused. The ones that are getting exceptional results are not well-rounded individuals that are doing every single thing. They know how to say no. No is their default, and yes is only to the great. They have also chosen to take calculated risks. They have chosen to spend their time and energy in areas that are going to pay off really well. I talk about this all the time, that the difference between our clients that are making a few dollars and those that are making a gazillion dollars is not they're working harder, not that they're working smarter. They are simply deciding to spend their energies in areas that are going to be multipliable and are highly profitable.
I love it. It's great. Hey, I want to ask you before we wrap up, you're a profitability consultant. What are some golden nuggets you can share with us about really kind of diving and looking at our profitability and increasing it? And I know there's probably a million things, but I wouldn't forgive myself if I let you go and didn't ask you.
Yeah, and the whole idea behind the profitability, that's really not the end goal. The end goal that we work with clients is get the profitability so you can get the right team in there to run your business so you have an asset that's turning out cash for you for a lifetime. That's really what the end goal is. Everyone's idea on business is a little different. So profitability, first and foremost, you've got to make sure that you're charging the right dollar amount and that you have the right gross profit margin in whatever you're selling, whether it's a service or goods. If you don't have a good enough gross profit margin, you'll never end up with a net one. Second, make sure that the first thing that comes out is profits. It's not sales minus expenses equal profits. It is sales minus your profits equal the amount of expenses you can use to run your business. Reverse the equation around. Take that money out first and do not put it back in the business. It is your money. I always talk about TOP, T-O-P, 3 things you take care of first: taxes, owner compensation, and profits. Then what's left? That's how you run your business.
Yeah, I love that.
So pay yourself first. And,
yes.
And Uncle Sam, he likes to get paid too.
That's right. But yes, studio owners, important lesson for you right there from Thor. Pay yourself first.
Absolutely. I mean, you hear it all the time. Very few people do it. It's a game changer. As soon as you do it, you end up, look, if there's $1 million in the account, you figure out how to spend it and run your business. If there's $5 in the account, you try to save it as long as possible and you run your business on it. Take your piece out, take the taxes out, take your profits out.
Awesome. I love it, Thor. So good. I could talk to you for hours. We might need to get you back or have you teach one of our Inner Circle masterclass at pro classes. This has been such a fascinating conversation, and I'm sure studio owners, you would have pages and pages of notes from this interview. I'd encourage you to listen to it again. Thor, I'm sure our studio owners are wanting to find out a lot more about you. Where can we find out more about you and your podcast and the services that you provide?
Yeah, thank you. First of all, thorconklin.com is the website. You can find everything with regards to free resources, the podcast, etc. And if anybody out there is struggling with something in their business, if they send me an email to thor@thorconklin.com, I will send them I almost said handwritten. Now, of course, I can't send you a handwritten email, but you're not going to end up in a drip campaign or anything. I'll send you back an email that will give you a 4-step process to eliminate the biggest problem in your business at the very least, greatly reduce that so it's no longer an issue.
Awesome. We love that. So guys, make sure you shoot Thor an email to get that 4-step process. Thor, thanks again so much for sharing a bunch of wisdom and knowledge with us today. I greatly appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you for joining us today. For all the resource links from the show and to receive access to our free dance studio growth training, make sure you visit transformmydancestudio.com.